Hey guys, I'm VintageSims and welcome to episode 4 of my Sims 4 Decades Challenge. In today's episode, we are building the second retail lot of the series. And as you can see, I already built the entire building already because it took me like 4 hours to figure out like how I even wanted to make the outside look and then kind of divvy up the inside of it. And let's just say I put way too much work into building this lot. I had already pretty much built almost an entire other build, actually two entire other builds. For this, I had decided previously to make a Victorian theater, but I made it twice and didn't like it, and it just like was not working out whatsoever, and none of the lots were quite big enough for it. So I ended up going with a Victorian restaurant just because it would be a little bit smaller and less intense. So I went with that, and I really liked how this build turned out. I love the inside so much. I'm not a huge fan of like building the exteriors for houses like and doing all like the landscaping. I don't know why, it's just like does not come naturally to me, so when it does look good, I'm pretty shook by that. Also, I just wanted to say I hate that they don't have a floor tile or a like terrain paint that matches the cobblestones in this neighborhood, Windenburg, because like why would they do that? Now I can never make the ground match, so it's always just like these mismatched cobblestones, and it looks kind of not great. So I did my best with the cobblestones outside. And I really liked the stage in the middle of the room. I thought that looked just like really good. I knew when I started that I wanted to have a stage, but I could not figure out where to put it. I drew up like so many things, and I was kind of trying to make it like a mini theater inside of the restaurant, but it just was like too much, and I didn't have enough Sims to do all these things I wanted for the machinima. So, yeah, I just made it a restaurant, and I feel like that was a better choice. Although I do think I would go back to making a Victorian theater at some point because I did have a lot of good ideas for it, and I really enjoyed what I did do, but it wasn't coming together correctly, and it just looked like this big square mass building, and it was kind of awful. So, yeah, there's just two of those buildings lying around somewhere because the first one was god awful, but I did learn a lot of things doing that. And I'm really excited for the Edwardian builds I'm gonna do. I haven't completely planned out what I'm going to do, but I did kind of write down things that I had ideas for about a month ago. So I kind of pre-planned what I was going to do, but more like brainstormed it and had some good ideas for it. I'm just really liking doing this challenge, and I'm going to have another episode of my Decades Challenge out in a few days. I had to take a break from doing builds and doing the machinima because I felt like I was going insane. I kept adding like maybe another 30 seconds to the machinima, and it would take me like 3 hours just to film enough for that because the Sims aren't doing what I wanted. It's not lining up. They're wanting to sit down at the same table while I'm wanting one of them to stand. So it was just a big mess. I really like these like display areas I have in the windows, like below the windows over there. I thought that was a really nice touch to have. I know a lot of older places like Victorian houses and such have those like display areas, or I guess they can be like window seats too, but I really liked having those there. And these are the bathrooms that I'm doing right here. The bathrooms gave me a little bit of heck just because they were weirdly shaped, and I was trying to make a bathroom for like multiple people to go in at once, and so I had to build stalls. I do that later on. I do build some stalls because I was like, well, they're not just gonna like be peeing in front of each other. Although I've read that in the Victorian era, women would not wear underwear underneath their gigantic dresses, and then they would just like lift their dress up a little bit and just start peeing, just go for it. So, you know, I feel like we have a lot of ideas about the Victorian era being super classy, but I think it was just like a hot mess in nice clothing, pretty much. because everyone had like syphilis and was going insane and were like terrible people with terrible morals, but just like faked being super classy on top. And yeah, I was watching the BuzzFeed Unsolved video about Jack the Ripper last night, and I just find that so interesting, that just how different things were back then, and just really interesting. This little area right here, this like awkward like trapezoid shaped area. I don't know if that's a trapezoid, but you know, whatever. I had so many issues with it. I had to delete some of the stuff around it to film the machinima because my Sims wouldn't walk down that staircase right there. So when I needed my Sim to go down to like the food area, they'd walk out the front door and go all the way back around the back of the building and then walk down the other staircase. And I was like, this is literally the worst. And I probably spent like an hour trying to figure out what to do, and eventually I got it to work, but I wasted so much time in my game trying to do that. And I ended up using less insane wallpaper. Like, this is less insane than what I had before for the wallpaper. But I did end up liking it. I know the other parts of the build weren't as like Victorian clutter and a bunch of patterns, so I thought I would use that in the bathroom a little bit more. And I really like the men's room. Like, it's really small, but I think I just really like that wallpaper and just how it turned out. And I like having the stalls, even though they're kind of like, the women's ones are kind of awkward shaped. I probably honestly could have fit the toilet in there without making them awkward shaped like that, but I just like having a bunch of weird shapes in this build. Like, I really liked it because it wasn't just like this gigantic box, and it wasn't like, there's no sides that are like identical for like as each other. Like, the outside is completely mismatched a bit too, and I really like that it, because all my builds seem to just be like mirror images and boxy sometimes, and I really try to like not do that with my builds and kind of create funky corners and stuff like that and get more creative with it. And yeah, I don't know, I tried really hard on this one, and I felt like I got done, and then I was like, oh, I didn't like put anything outside. There was like a few flowers, and that's it. So I spent another like 2 hours doing the outside. And this is the kitchen. The kitchen was a little bit hard for me, but I'm just not a person who's good at making kitchens and bathrooms. Like, I don't know why, I just really don't like it. So I usually put it off till the very end, because it's just, I don't know, my kitchens never look right, and then I'll see things that other people do in their kitchens, and I'm like, why wouldn't I have done that in my kitchen? Like, it makes so much sense when I watch other people build kitchens and they do things that look great. And then I'm just like, I guess I'll put this here. That goes there, right? That's how a kitchen works. But maybe it's because I don't cook, so I'm just never in the kitchen unless I'm like standing in front of the fridge eating cheese. That's about the only time I'm in the kitchen, just eating cheese all the time. But I felt like I did pretty good for me. And of course I had to put a shelf in there because I'm the shelf queen, and I love putting shelves everywhere. Just everywhere. And I just felt like I had so many problems with this build just because it's not very playable. Like, it looks pretty good, but when you try to play it a lot of things kind of don't work, and you can't get into certain rooms, or you can get into the rooms, but you couldn't get down the stairs. And then I put too much stuff on the stove, so we couldn't cook, and then just every issue I could have, pretty much. And so it took me probably 20 hours, and even as I'm recording this right now, I still haven't finished the machinima, so I'm going to be working on that next for sure. And then I will be working on my Decades Challenge. I'm really excited. I built a new house for that too, so I'll actually have to do another voiceover for that before I can even play. Just so much to do. This is what happens when you put everything like off for 2 weeks. You just like are a mess who hasn't done anything, and you have so much to catch up on. But I honestly really enjoy doing these videos and doing the voiceovers for them. I used to be really shy about my voice, and this has kind of helped me come out of my shell a little bit. and I'm not so embarrassed when I hear my voice on on microphones, recordings, and yeah, I don't feel any shame about doing this anymore. I feel like a lot of people are too embarrassed to upload things to YouTube because I don't know, maybe it's like shame, like thinking that you are like hot shit or something. You're like, oh, I'm so cool, I put things on YouTube, but it's not how it is. I have a creative outlet and I'm building these like amazing houses, and this is basically like my art. Like I'm putting this artwork out into the world, and why not show people what I'm doing if I'm putting all this work into it, right? Like I'm not just gonna be like, well, finish that house, just time to move on with my life. I'm trying to actually put things out into the world and share my creativity with people, and maybe I'm doing things that people would have never thought to do in their builds. And, you know, I see my own stuff and I don't think they're that great, but then I, you know, think that other people might think they are. And I just put these like little not binoculars, whatever you would call that, basically binoculars, next to these seats so they could sit up here and like watch the piano player perform. They don't have to be down with the people eating if they don't want to. So it's kind of like how I said I was making like a mini theater within here. It's just like a tiny area for them to sit and watch. And you know how they would always have their like binoculars, their tiny binoculars, so they could see better. Also, I wanted a pair of tiny binoculars so bad so I could go to like plays and stuff and look fancy as heck. Like how cool would that be? One of those and one of those long cigarette things. Don't smoke cigarettes though, guys. It's really bad for you. Don't do it. So here I am trying to figure out what to do with the back, because I was like, well, I finished the inside pretty much, and then I went to look back at it for the machinima and I was like, and this is super incomplete. And what I have done right now is so little compared to what I do in the end. I was trying to kind of make a little courtyard area. I didn't want it to be super like floral. Like I put a lot of green out here, and then I was like, that's almost too much. Like I feel like in the city, like in London basically, they probably wouldn't have had a lot of plants outside in like the city area, just because it was like dirty and death ridden. Everyone was dying, stuff like that. So they probably weren't thinking like, oh, let's like make it look really pretty with plants out here. I'm guessing most places didn't do that. So I kept trying to put trees, and then I was like, this just doesn't fit the rest of the area, and it's almost too well manicured with this like grass over here. So I tried to pull the grass out, and I was trying to fit these trees in here without them going through the building, but then it just looked really weird with the trees. So it took me a long time to figure out what I was going to do, and I wasn't super in love with the end result, just because I'm really mean to myself and I never like my the outside, the landscaping of my builds. So I did my best, but I put some of these what are they called? Street lamps. Put some street lamps out front, and it took me a while to figure out which ones I wanted, and I kind of put them so they're kind of built in with the fence I put out there. So I was just kind of trying to bring everything together, and I do end up putting an outside eating area, but I doubt that, anyone would use it because there's like 45 tables inside. That might be an exaggeration, but there's a lot of tables inside, and the machinima, I could not fill them up, so just pretend that there's like a ton of people in the building. I tried to get that mod where you can have like unlimited Sims in your game, but I think my game wouldn't start or something like that. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna take this off actually, because I've had so many problems with my game not starting, and mods like screwing everything up and then losing a bunch of stuff. So I just thought, better not chance it. It's not quite worth it. And so I decided the building looked really plain Jane on the outside compared to the inside. So I put all this like what would you call this? I want to call it moss, but it's not moss. It's like ivy. So I put that all over the place, and it's kind of hard to put the ivy out because you're like, I want to make this look like random and scattered, but then it just, I don't know, it looks all over the place sometimes. So I was like, I'm gonna try to make this look the most natural that I possibly can, but yeah, it's a little tough to make it look good sometimes. But I think I think I did pretty good. And this little area back here is just like more outside stoves, so you can just cook outside if you have different food. And then we have garbage cans outside as well, so they can take out the garbage back there in a little locked gate area. And I put a little sign out here. I think I keep that, but I just wanted to add a lot more because it just didn't look cluttered enough, I guess. But then I couldn't quite figure out what to put. But I put some more flowers out here just because it looked so sad, I guess. It just looked real sad outside. So I added a bunch of flowery things and just put some, I think, I almost said scones. I put some sconces outside and some flower boxes. Just almost too many flower boxes probably, and these little things that go on top of the windows kind of added more dimension to it. I just didn't want it to look bland. I wanted it to look more realistic, but I put all these flower boxes all over it, which I actually really liked. I did change it up a little bit on the front and didn't put like just flower boxes. As you can see, I have that like wooden whatever it's called on the front window. I guess it's not really a deck because you can't go out on it, but that wooden area up there. And yeah, so that's pretty much the end of the build. We're getting there. I'm so glad to have this over with and to almost be done with the machinima. I really liked the ending look of this build, and it's so pretty inside. I just love the inside so much. I was really proud of myself for doing that and getting it done. So this is gonna be the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate all of you watching this and supporting me, doing things that I really enjoy, and I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, like and subscribe and leave me some comments because it really makes my day when I'm left some comments. Thank you guys. Have a great day. Bye.